I like your cut, G.
We all listen to that one album in our life, whether it's early in our lives or later in our lives, where we realize that nothing else we listen to is ever going to live up to the standard or even beat what this album had to offer. And for me, that album is Green Day's 2004 release, American Idiot. I've said this before, it's my favorite album of all time, at least of my lifetime, now going on 24 years. And even though you might think, well, if this came out in 2004 and you're 24, you were 6 years old when this came out. And yeah, sometimes it's very hard to remember something when you're 6 years old going into adulthood. You don't remember it that much. But this record just holds so much to me, because without it, I wouldn't really have followed music as much as I have. And it just, to this day, going on 18 years old, as on September 21st, the album will turn 18, it's just still one of those records that feels like it could be made today and it could hold up so well. I mean, the 5 singles on this thing are just absolute classics from the title track. Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Holiday, Wake Me Up When September Ends are some of the biggest. And Jesus of Suburbia, even the 9.5 minute epic, got turned into like a short films type thing. It was very, very cool, and those songs to me are still some of my favorite Green Day songs. But when it came to the songwriting, I feel like this was Green Day's peak at it. Like, even beforehand, even on some of their better albums before American Idiot, they never got this good with songwriting before. I'm not saying that they were terrible before, it's just with American Idiot, there was something there, something clicked with Billy Joe, and it just came out masterful. And the deep cuts on this thing, I think, are also ones that hold up super, super well. I mean, Saint Jimmy to Give Me Novocaine, She's a Rebel, What's Her Name, Homecoming, like, all of it is just so good. It's one of the few albums I can say, listening all the way throughout, that there's not a singular problem I look at and point at and go, oh, this stops it from being perfect. This is like the most perfect album in my lifetime, in my eyes. Like, even anything after this that they have put out, nothing has even come close to what we got here. As it's more political and storytelling, which with me, you know, I talk about political things and I get political every so often when I know what I'm, talking about. For the most part, I'm not really super, super political, so you would think right then and there that this album wouldn't necessarily be for me, but they do a great job of it. It's more storytelling about life and death and all this kind of stuff, as well as it shows you these characters like the Jesus of Suburbia and Saint Jimmy and all this kind of stuff. It just takes you on this ride. You just never really seem to want to get off. Even after the album's over, you want to hear it again. Like, you want the next go round. You want to buy the ticket for the next bus ride.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
It's mesmerizing to think that Green Day could have just flat out retired here and we all would have been okay with it, as they wouldn't release an album until 5 years later when they released 21st Century Breakdown, which I like to say was kind of like them trying to make a sequel to American Idiot. And to be honest with you, I knew that it wasn't going to work twice. Like, American Idiot is American Idiot, and trying to like continue on from it years later, it just wasn't going to work as well as it did the first time. Again, I'm not saying I hate 21st Century Breakdown, but compare it to American Idiot, and my God, it's not even close to what this album is. It's one of those things where, you can't believe that it's as old as it is, because I still feel like this album only came out a couple years ago. I mean, keep in mind, by the time this came out, I was still young, and there was a lot of these acts that sounded like Green Day that were, up and doing their thing. I mean, this was right before the peak of Paramore, Fall Out Boy, Avril Lavigne was up and, doing her thing. Blink-182 was close to breaking up, so it was like Green Day was really the only thing there that I would say that I was enjoying a lot that wasn't Kiss. All of you know I'm a big Kiss fan, or was a big Kiss fan. Still kind of am, just don't listen to them as much as I did back then. And when this album came out, it really made me widen my horizons musically, and if it wasn't for this album, I don't think I ever would have checked out pop punk and would be fans of the bands that I am today. And it even made me check out other genres of music. I know it may sound weird, but there's political rap albums that I don't think I would ever enjoy if it wasn't for Green Day making an album like this. I mean, To Pimp a Butterfly is just one of the ones that come to mind when I think political rap albums, where it's like, had Green Day not released this political album right here, I don't think I even would have gave T-Bap a shot because of it being political and whatnot. But I gave it a shot because I was like, you know, I've heard a good political album before, so why not listen to this one, because maybe it can give me something here. I still don't like it as much as American Idiot, but my god, it's a great record in itself, and it really makes me more political releases like, okay, if they're really into what they're talking about, then that's when it really hits you. Whereas if they're just saying this to say it, then you know it comes off kind of wrong in this case. Like, there's a difference between what Green Day did with American Idiot and what Theory of a Dead Man is doing with their political music now. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel like they're actually trying to fight for what they stand for. It just seems like they're trying to gain this audience for the sake of getting popular and staying on the charts, which I think is just the wrong thing to do. Whereas Green Day was so passionate about what they were talking about. They made an album politically back in 2004 during the Bush administration that, you know, could have fit well with the Obama administration, the Trump administration, even now the Biden administration, with the things that they talk about. Like, it never seems to age in that way, and that's what makes it so perfect to me. And I have not heard a record of anybody, not just theirs, but just of anybody, where I've listened to it all the way through and said, this is gold, this is it, this is going to surpass American Idiot. It just hasn't happened to me. At least yet. I'll say yet. I'm only 24 years into my life. Maybe there'll be that one album that comes where I'm just like, this is it. You have dethroned American Idiot. But for now, there's nothing like it to me. And for me, it's just my personal favorite because that's kind of where my love for music started. I mean, I listened to music beforehand, but this is when I really started listening to what I wanted to listen to and wasn't afraid to go out of my comfort zone and listen to other things that maybe I wouldn't have listened to before. That's it for me. You can tell me in the comments below, what's your favorite album of all time? Why? What did it do for you? What about American Idiot? Where does it rank for you in best albums of all time? Maybe you don't even like the album. Not necessarily you hate it, but you just don't like it, but you see where people would definitely enjoy it in one way or another. So until then, stay safe out there, wear your mask, get vaccinated, and I will catch you all in the next one.
The subliminal mind, America. Welcome to